Okay, we are broadcasting on YouTube. We are recording. We'll start the meeting with the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kate, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilwoman Allen. Here. Councilwoman Hagen DePew.
Here.
Councilman Hewitt.
Here.
Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Supervisor Baden.
Here. Okay, we are here tonight to hold a public hearing for zoning designation change, zoning district designation change for 5688 Route 209 to be included in the Economic Enterprise Overlay Zoning District. And we will I'd like to introduce Kenan Gundos, who is representing the Walnut Brook LLC, who are the owners of the property. And let me give you screen share capability. And I will, we're going to have a brief presentation of what the project is, then we will open it up for public comment, and then we'll move on. So if you want to go ahead and share.
Okay, is that working?
Yep, we are seeing it. Great.
Fantastic. Hi, I want to thank the board for having us tonight, and I just want to hopefully give a brief presentation of the proposal for this development project. It's an adaptive reuse. Working title, Walnut Brook Apartments. So a couple key points that I want to introduce to everybody in relation to this project is that we want to create high quality housing that's needed. The idea is to rehabilitate a derelict site on a scenic stretch of 209, keep the land disturbance to a minimum, reuse salvageable existing structures and keep materials out of the landfill, provide housing opportunities for workers in the community, perform development with the lowest possible environmental impact, and that we're committed to working in partnership with the town. To make this a feasible project, the project, for it to happen, has to make sense business-wise. The expenses and the expenditures have to be offset by an adequate amount of rents. But in cooperation and through the principles of adaptive reuse, we think this is a win-win. So what we seek to do here is create high quality and efficient apartments to serve the needs outlined in the Ulster County 2021 Housing Action Plan. This came out in March. It's not a news story. Unfortunately, there's a huge need for housing. The income inequality that's been ever increasing, and the things brought about by the difficulties brought about by the pandemic have exacerbated that. There's, of course, a rush of people spending more and more money on housing, pushing up the prices. Of course, high earners don't really have an issue, but for people who work in the communities, there's a real issue, and we see a need here that we can fill. And we would do that through rehabilitating this derelict site and structures through adaptive reuse. I'm going to hit on each of these points, so I won't belabor it, but the intent is to do market rate housing. We'll dedicate a percentage to workforce housing, however, for people who work in the community to be able to afford to stay in the community and live in the community where they work. These are people who are essential for the functioning of the community: police, fire, healthcare workers, etc. And these are often the people who are priced out. We're designing with consideration toward neighboring lands and properties, and taking in feedback from the planning board. We got some great feedback from members of this board and the planning board at the Gateway meeting, and we take that very seriously. And regarding the land use, we intend on always doing everything in full cooperation and compliance with New York State DEC, the DOT, Ulster County Department of Health, the comprehensive plan. We want to stay out of the flood zone, minimize the disturbance, and we're setting lands aside for recreation as well. So the Ulster County Housing Action Plan is available for everyone to see. It's not telling a very good story, but we think we can be part of the solution. One of the main recommendations is to encourage very specifically this type of redevelopment and adaptive reuse for housing opportunities. So these are some stills from the site as it exists today. You can tell the structures are not in great shape, many of them. This motel structure on the left, not a particularly attractive structure to begin with, but it's also in bad disrepair. And adaptive reuse seeks to rehabilitate these underutilized structures in the site and to find the best use in that context in the community. And in this case, it's housing. It's good quality housing. Adaptive reuse also offers the lowest environmental impact compared to ground up construction. It eliminates unnecessary demolition. And, you know, we want to create good quality rental housing to serve the needs of the community. This is the front view of the former lodge. And as an example of what's proposed through an adaptive reuse using this one structure to start with, you can see it's got these stairs and this wooden balcony on the second level. This was originally 16 units, transient housing. Most recently, it was used for seasonal migratory labor. And in our plan, we would make it into half the density, 8 townhouse style 2-bedroom units. And you can see each unit would enter from the ground floor. We've done away with the staircases on the outside. We've kept the overhang in the columns because it can, you know, be a nice shade structure and can keep the weather away from the patios and the doors of these townhouse units. And we're going to repair and rehabilitate it. It'll be beautiful housing. Here is the site plan, just to give everyone an overview. And I don't know if you can see it clearly, but each of the buildings is numbered. And the one we just looked at, number 7, was the old motel. And that's proposed to be converted into 8 townhouse type 2-bedroom units. You'll see other buildings scattered about the site. Number 2 is something that we'll have to demolish. This is an existing multi-room 2-story dwelling. It's in terrible disrepair. It's not salvageable, unfortunately. Building 1, you'll notice, is an existing single-family dwelling. We would keep it a single-family dwelling. You will also notice it's in a cross-hatched area. It deceptively, on this site plan, might seem to some that it's in the flood zone. It's not. The flood zone on this is actually delineated in the purple line, and the cross-hatched area delineates the 100-foot area from the high bank of the stream. Our understanding is that in the town of Rochester, no building is allowed within this 100-foot radius or area of the high bank of the stream. This particular building is in good shape compared to the others on the site. It was the most recent building to be occupied. And we'll see some pictures of it later on. And we would ask the town's discretion, of course, to be able to keep it and reuse it, fix it up, and keep it as a single-family dwelling. Here it is now, and you can see in comparison to some of the other structures, the photos of other structures we had, it's in relatively good shape. The ridge is straight, the foundation is solid. It's very, very high above the banks of the stream. So that's one of the things that we'd be asking for, is to be able to rehabilitate this structure and keep it as a one-family residence. And here's that same site plan, but I've made some markings on it so you can see the 5.37 acres in the flood zone is the area delineated in purple, and the cross-hatched area that I've kind of marked in blue is that 100 foot from the stream. You can see that number 1 is not in the flood zone, but it is in that 100-foot area. So we'd have to ask for the town to allow us to rehabilitate that. Okay, so high quality apartments, what are we talking about? 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units with all new energy efficient fixtures and appliances, low density dwellings for the most part, 1, 2, and 3 family dwellings, plus that 1 former lodge building, which would have 8 units in it, townhouse style. We'd be reducing the density by half from its 16 to 8. And these would be long-term rentals as opposed to seasonal or transient. In our model, we want to have good relationships with tenants who are long-term, who want to be there. We need for the housing to be good quality to make sure we attract people and keep them and make them happy. And, we think there's a need for that as well, as opposed to seasonal transient dwellings. There will be outdoor private spaces for the dwellings, some patios, and there will also be common recreational areas. In the site plan, we're taking a large portion of the floodplain and we're not touching that at all, and we're dedicating to that to recreational use. And also other lands that are not in the floodplain will be dedicated to recreational use. There'll be additional plantings and landscaping, but some of the existing features of the landscaping that are desirable, native plants, trees, we wouldn't want to disturb. Then there are going to be 3 in the proposal, 3 family homes. These are proposed new buildings. One of the aspects of doing this adaptive reuse is that it needs to be feasible. It needs to make sense from a business perspective. In the Ulster County Housing Action Plan, the county executive cited a housing market in crisis. He stated it's an untenable situation for all but the highest earning households. And they suggested that they, recommend funding for certain projects that are adaptive reuse that fit within their purview. We would not be seeking subsidies or public funding for this. We believe that a project can and should stand on its own merits. And this can, but we need to achieve enough units to make that make sense. So that's where these proposed new buildings come into play. We're preserving the majority of the structures on the site. We're only demoing one that's in bad disrepair, but we would propose 3 family buildings, each of which would be very good quality housing. You have over 1,000 square feet each. They'd be 3 bedrooms. Each one has a little patio area where they can have some private yard space. And we've designed these with some feedback from members of the boards that they would like to see it sort of be in comportment with the farmhouse style of the area. And we've also tried to not make them cookie cutter. You can see there's variation among them. And they're sited in a way on the site to shield from the motel a little bit, and to also be convenient in terms of parking and for septic and water. So, they're spaced enough apart so that they're, we think, at a good scale, but, close enough together that they're efficient in terms of delivery of water and dealing with the septic and sewer issues. And let's take a look at this aerial view. If you see this former swimming pool sort of in the middle off to the left a little bit, that's roughly where the rightmost new structure would be proposed, and the other 2 would be to the left of that. So they're not right up on the road. They're set back a little bit, and the idea would be to blend it in as much as possible, to have some plantings in front of them that shielded them nicely from 209, but they wouldn't be unattractive structures either. They would, comport with the rest of the structures on the site and in the surrounding area. So let's move on. Here is the site plan again. And if you look in the lower left, you can see number 10, these three structures that are proposed. And they're also done to be convenient around the parking area. Now, this is a working site plan. Obviously, we'll make tweaks to it, and we're looking for comments that we can take in and better this plan with. But that's where those three new structures would be. Number one, again, is that one family dwelling, single family dwelling that we would seek to rehabilitate and keep as a one family. Number two is being demolished, unfortunately. Number three was an existing activities building that would be converted into a one family dwelling plus a garage. Building number four is the existing multi-room dwelling. It'd be converted into a two family dwelling. This is one of the structures that had transient, housing for seasonal labor. It's all chopped up. We would kind of reduce that density, make it into two nice high quality apartments. Building number six is the dining hall and activities building that would be converted also into a two family dwelling. Building number seven is the old motel. Building number eight is a shed. It's existing. It's going to remain as that. It's going to be unchanged. That's not proposed to turn that into dwelling units at the moment. And let's see. Moving forward from here. So market rate and workforce housing. We mentioned this earlier, and what do we mean? The bulk of the housing is going to be market rate. The average estimated cost of these apartments will be from $1,200 to $1,500 a month, and that's based on our market analysis. We try to be conservative. Again, we want to attract good tenancy that are happy to stay there long term. It makes for a much easier project to manage long term. We want to have good relationships long term. And for that, we know we're not shooting to price these at the top of the market. We need it to be fair, but it's the market rate. 20% of the units will be dedicated as workforce housing. And that's an initiative that provides housing specifically for workers in the community who might otherwise be priced out. These units will be priced less than the market rate. And the folks who often are eligible for this sort of thing are police, firefighters, healthcare workers. You can designate food service workers if the town is so inclined. You can designate people that the town tells us need housing, that are having a hard time staying in the community, and this gives them an opportunity to have good quality housing and stay here. So we're moving on to sort of environmental issues, which are of the utmost importance in today's day and age. When development's happening, these are the things that can't be ignored. Septic is a major item here. We got an opportunity to speak with representatives from the Department of Health at the Gateway meeting. We need to conform and comply with all regulations from DEC and DOH as it relates to septic. We do intend to be able to provide more than adequate septic for all 24 units that are proposed, whether it's a raised bed system or a package treatment facility, whatever it is, we know we can achieve that. And the density of having 24 units gives us an economy of scale that allows us to do proper septic for everybody on the site. And of course, this will be reviewed, and the engineering will be performed by third-party licensed engineers and reviewed by the town's engineer as well. So this is one of those areas where the cooperation and communication and transparency is really important. We take it very seriously. And the same for water. The preliminary review showed that there was a high volume of water. That's not enough. We have to do further studies to make sure that that high volume meets the thresholds that are necessary for this amount. So to that end, we'd be testing with licensed third-party hydrogeologists, and they'd be doing Part 5 water quality tests. They'd be doing flow tests and drawdown tests. These things have to meet the DOH and DEC requirements, and they're going to be done by third-party licensed professionals and reviewed by third-party licensed professionals. And the town is going to be the party that makes sure all that's happening and reviews it. So transparency is important. The studies are important. This is serious stuff that we take very seriously. In general, on the environment, we are going to be in full compliance with seeker if this is to go forward. That's the State Environmental Quality Review Act. DEC, DOT, DOH regulations have to be met. And again, this is shown through third-party licensed professionals. It's not something that we just say. It's something that the professionals handle, and the professionals on the town end vet that and review that and make sure it's done. If there's over an acre of disturbance on the land, which it seems like there would be in this case, then a full stormwater pollution prevention plan has to be put in place, a SWIP, and that has to be done in complete accordance with EPA guidelines. So we're prepared to do that as well. Overall, we're committed to full transparency and compliance with regulations of the appropriate agencies, and this is all to be reviewed independently by the town's professionals, and their third-party licensed engineers. So that's the whole project. Basically, that's the overview. And we're happy to take comments. We're going to be taking notes on comments and understanding what the concerns are so we can speak to them. And we're also here to answer questions if any come up.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. Appreciate it. I note that you now have the visuals, which you did not have at the last time, and very much appreciated. So with that, I'm going to open it up for public comment. For the people speaking, you are speaking to the board on the consideration of including this parcel in the Economic Enterprise Overlay District. If your comment is the form of a question, the board may or may not answer at this time, but we're here to hear your thoughts. So I'm going to take it just in order that I see it actually on my screen. So first, I'll ask Gloria Mirsky if you would like to speak. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Oh, hi, I'm just wanted to see what the plan looked like. Really, I'm totally in support of workforce and affordable housing, and I just wanted to see what, how they were configuring the property. That's basically what I wanted to do.
Okay. Well, then we thank you for your attendance. Next, I'll have Charlotte Knapp. If you can unmute yourself and you can speak.
Hi, first of all, thank you for the lovely presentation. I was here also to just see what the outlay and what the plan was for it. I'm also in full support of workforce and affordable housing, so I definitely would love to see this project get expanded and move forward with the best we can. Thank you.
Great. Next, Claire Wasser.
Hi, I wrote a letter. I submitted a letter, but I guess just to reiterate what the other two people who just spoke, also in support of workforce and support and affordable housing. And I just wanted to see the presentation. So thank you for that.
Okay. Next, Andrew Mccarrick.
Okay. I'm sorry I missed the presentation. I was late. But I assume I can see it on the recording later. I sent a statement in yesterday. It's rather long. I don't know if you want me to read it or how.
It was received and it's been shared with all the board members.
Okay.
After we take public comments, I'll poll the board if they want to read these letters or if they want to just, but it has been shared with all the board members
Good.
today by the town clerk.
Thank you.
Okay. And next, Mr. Bacon, are you here to speak or are you here as the representative of the applicant?
I'm just here as a representative of the applicant. Thank you for looking at this project. It seems like a really good adaptive reuse program, and it's my first meeting that I've attended for the project, so appreciate the board's willingness to look at this and put this in this overlay, and would like to see it go through.
Okay, and Kanan, I probably should ask you, is Mr. Bacon your attorney? So our attorney and your attorney can converse when necessary, if just with your permission.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Bacon is a partner in the project and also the attorney on the project.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I know Mary Lou has probably worked with Mr. Bacon previously. So,
I do know Mr. Bacon.
yeah. So, okay. I see no other people wishing to speak. We have received back comments from the Ulster County Planning Board on the EEO designation. We received a comment letter from the Environmental Conservation Commission of the town of Rochester, a request for comments. We received a letter from the town of Rochester Historic Preservation Commission. We received 2 letters from the town of Rochester Planning Board, one on the designation of lead agency for seeker, in which they are consenting to us being lead agency, and then a second letter of comment that there are a number of questions and comments that they bring up. And we received 2 letters from the public, as was noted, from Andrew Mccarrick and from Claire Wasser. What is the board's feeling? Do you want to read any of these into the record? They are part of the record, whether we read them in the meeting or not. I'll put it to the board if they've been shared with all of you. So,
Mike, we usually read. I wondered if we wanted to read the Ulster County Planning Board and the Town of
Sure.
Rochester Planning Board ones.
Yep. I'm happy to read any. I just,
If anyone else.
Sure. So from this is a recommendation from the Ulster County Planning Board. It was referred to them under the general municipal rules of referral for a zoning district designation. And this is their recommendation. It states the eligibility requirements of the EEO requires that all properties shall adaptively reuse structures and associated lands to protect against abandonment and general vacancy of structures, or allow for the reuse and or redevelopment of the underutilized properties. The Maybrook Lodge site proposal fits those purposes and eligibility requirements precisely. The proposal also, as a housing development, creates an opportunity to establish a greater variety of housing types for a town that predominantly consists of single-family homes. Additionally, the county's recently released housing action plan, which includes a 2020 housing snapshot for the town of Rochester, clearly indicates the demand for this type of housing. See attached. The UCPB favors the proposal and is not only aligned with purpose of the town's EEO, but helps to serve a critical need with respect to increasing housing supply in the town and the region. However, before the EEO can be applied to this project, certain processes and steps must be completed first. And this is a required modification from them. It says seeker site plan review, UCPB referral. While the EEO overlay is indeed applicable to the proposed project and supports as far as its conceptual plan, and supported as far as its conceptual plan now by the UCPB, the seeker process, as well as the site plan review process, including the referral of the site plan to the UCPB for review, must be completed as first steps. Then once these steps are complete, the project can be added to the EEO zoning district. That was their comment. The ECC comment says, dear Town of Rochester Town Board members, the Town of Rochester Environmental Conservation Commission thanks the Town Board for requesting the Commission's comments and or recommendations regarding the request for seeker interested agency information for the application of Walnut Brook LLC for adaptive. There's an extra letter in there. It's supposed to say for adaptive reuse of an existing facility grant, a zoning district overlay designation of economic overlay, and zoning change for the parcel located at 5688 Route 209, Cohasset, New York. The commission commends the applicant for the proposed reuse of existing facilities over pursuing new construction for the entirety of their project. Preserving our town's open space and encouraging redevelopment of existing facilities is of great importance to the TOR ECC. After reviewing the documents provided by the applicant with our knowledge of the area, the TOR ECC chief concern is for the environmental integrity of the Millbrook Creek. It is the TOR ECC's hope that there are no negative effects to the creek from construction activities on the site or effects from day-to-day operations. It will be the recommendation of the TOR ECC that if this project is to move forward, the applicant be willing to both establish and maintain a riparian buffer along the length of the creek that flows through the 5688 parcel. Riparian buffers are the natural vegetation buffer that extends from the edge of the stream bank. A riparian zone helps to decrease erosion, reduce flooding damage, improve wildlife and stream habitat, and protects water quality. It is generally considered acceptable to have a buffer that is 2 times the width of the creek. Planting native grasses, shrubs, and trees is the first step in the recovery of the stream back to a more natural condition. The DEC initiative Trees for Tribs would be a resource for the applicant. The initiative provides free plant material for property owners to enhance riparian buffers on their property. This buffer would generate environmental goodwill and would be viewed as a trade-off for allowing the applicant to keep Unit 1 inside the 100-foot flood zone. Establishing this buffer would provide great environmental value to the stream, the property, and has the potential to be a natural amenity to future renters. Thank you for taking the TOR ECC comments and recommendations into consideration. Next, from the Historic Preservation Commission. And this is an email from Deborah Medenbach and Wilton Duckworth, who she is a member and Wilton is the chair. Wilton asked me to write up the findings from our visit to Maybrook Lodge yesterday. He and Alice Cross reviewed this note and approved sending it on. Please pass the following comments on to the planning board. To the Town of Rochester Planning Board, 4 members of the Rochester Historic Preservation Commission walked the former Maybrook Lodge site on Route 209 at 3 p.m. April 9 and make the following findings. The buildings and additions that Walnut Brook LLC intend to demolish are in very poor shape and interfere with the flow of the property intended use. We support their decision to remove them. The structures they choose to save and repurpose have many of the historical features of the buildings that are being lost but are in better condition. Of the new family townhouses that will be built 50 feet from the highway, the Historic Preservation Commission's request that they be architecturally harmonious with the other structures that are being saved to continue the unified sense of the place. There are no renderings of these buildings. That was at that time. There is a large old millstone at the top of the drive that should continue to be incorporated into the property since it is a historic artifact from the past millstone enterprises in Accord. Respectfully submitted, Wilton Duckworth, chairperson, Deborah Medenbach, member. From the from the town planning board, this is in regard to the seeker per your request and is required by general municipal law and under chapter 140 18.1 attached is the planning board consent to the town of Rochester Town Board assuming lead agency for the proposed EEO of Walnut Brook. In response to question 2 of seeker lead agency consent form, issues that your agency should be addressed, please also reference our required comment letter of 4/28/2021. The paramount issue to be addressed is the legality of EEO for this parcel. The planning board feels that an EEO is not legal for this parcel. Secondary concerns are listed in our comment letter. The following is a partial list of the health, safety, and welfare elements of our zoning code that we believe should be considered in an EEO for this project. The provisions of section 140.26, 140.27, and chapter 125 major subdivisions that might also be germane to the seeker process. Mandatory recreational space, and they list the sections. I'm not going to read the sections of each one. Mandatory open space, underground utilities, safe distancing of structures for fire protection, property maintenance agreement, compliance with New York State statutes governing the sale of real property used for multifamily occupancy, provision for school bus stop, water and septic. They say a certified operator on site to manage the wastewater treatment system, and that's with a question mark. Could need a DEC takings permit. Irrigation and landscaping water usage. Currently estimated water usage at 4,000 gallons per day for 24 units, whereby TOR code states needs a hydrological study. See notes from the Gateway meeting that mention these details. The environmental impact on Mill Run Creek, that's a mistake on the name. The FD, which is the FEMA floodplain overlay, and the AP overlay zoning protections, prime farmland and Ulster County Ag District protections, all criteria of major subdivisions. Multifamily residential use is treated as a major subdivision in our code. Their part 3, EAF part 1 should be reviewed by the town's planning consultant, CPL. Some EAF part 1 answers by the applicant for CPL review that were unclear to the planning board. C3 needs a written explanation. The uses are allowed as per the CEO determination and should be stated. D1 question, conversion from seasonal to full-time residential is an expansion of use, more square feet, acres of disturbance if build new units and use 365 days a year versus in season. D2A, the proposed action does include excavation for new units and potentially for septic unless there is implied hurdle for excavation. D2C1, excuse me, C1 and 6, new water demand is not listed and well water maximum pumping capacity not listed. D233, stormwater direction not indicated. D2J, increased traffic should be a yes. DOT at the Gateway meeting specifically asked for a traffic study and a more robust level of driveway permitting with the expanded number of units. Hypothetical 40 bedrooms and conceivably 2 people per bedroom could be 80 cars in and out. If there are kids school age, bus stop as per code, delivery of traffic to 24 units. D2K, does this need to be checked? Yes. D2E1 doesn't calculate the same as E1B. It leaves out the duplexes. E2E doesn't seem to jive with the perk test. E3B needs to fill out prime soils ratings and acreage of land of prime soil. E3H need to check yes, answer 1, 2, and 3. If the course of the town board's analysis at a public town board meeting, it was asked of the applicant to update their narrative to more robustly respond. The planning board has not seen an updated document and believes this should be done before seeker as to be a part of this decision based for seeker. As this will be a coordinated review, we look forward to collaborating closely with the board on all aspects of the review. And then their additional letter of comment. Per your request as required by general municipal law under the chapter 140.18.1C1 at our April 26, 2021 workshop meeting, the TOR planning board discussed and reviewed the proposed EEO for Walnut Brook LLC. First and paramount, the planning board does not believe that an EEO is legal for this parcel. The EEO states all parcels located in the AR3, AB3, H, I, NR, and B zoning district shall be eligible except as listed below. Properties listed in a designated county agricultural district with existing structures utilized as a farm operation as defined in this code shall not be eligible. Vacant properties located in a designated county agricultural district with soil areas of prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance as designated by the United States Department of Agriculture shall not be eligible. The planning board's interpretation of the above is if a parcel is both in the ag district and used for farming, or if a property is vacant and in the ag district and contains either prime soils or farmland of statewide importance, then the property is not eligible for an EEO. Number one, it is in the county ag district. Number three. Number two, it contains prime farmland. Number three, it is vacant. Number four, it is housing agricultural. It was housing agricultural workers and being farmed pre-sale and was owned by a farm trust, ostensibly a farm operation. Vacant is not defined in town code. We interpret the plain language of both the definition and the law as considering the property vacant. This calls into question whether or not this property is even eligible for an EEO. The opinion of the planning board is that because it is an ag district and is vacant and contains prime soils, the property is specifically not eligible for the EEO designation. We argue this type of situation, ag district, disuse, prime soils, is exactly why the town board originally created this exclusion from eligibility. Second, if the proposed EEO is legal, the planning board is concerned there is a lack of clarity in the law as to the ranking of the overlay districts. Shall all overlays be applied in concert? Are they equal? Is there town law on this issue that the town would reference or seek a written determination by the town attorney? The planning board interprets the law as all overlay districts are in effect at all times. Application of all overlays in equally could have influence on density, uses, and elements of the review process. Third, again, if the EEO is legal, the purpose of the economic enterprise overlay zone is to foster economic development, diversification of land uses, and employment generation through the reuse and or redevelopment of underutilized properties. And an EEO permits a broad range of uses that work in harmony. In October of 2022, the Code Enforcement Office zoned the proposed project as multifamily dwelling and seasonal conversion. The planning board feels that an EAO for this project is not necessary. An existing code allows for the proposed uses. Retaining the property in the B business zoning district where it is presently does not prevent fostering nor uses that work in harmony as specified in 140-18.1C1. Retaining the property in the B zoning district allows development, assures that well-constructed health, safety, and welfare elements of our zoning code are retained in the community, respects the comprehensive plan, and follows general municipal law. Planning board further discussed environmental and design constraints of the potential project at our meeting, but these constraints are secondary to the legality of the EEO. We conceptually support the redevelopment of the parcel, but our determination is that the existing zoning code fully allows for this redevelopment and that an economic enterprise overlay district is neither legally feasible nor preferred. We are available to explain our logic and reason. And then the two letters that were received from Mr. Mccarrick and Claire Wasser, they are, I believe, the same letter. So I will, rather than reading the same words twice, I'm writing to encourage you to grant the economic enterprise overlay to the proposal for the adaptive reuse of the former Maybrook Lodge into a multifamily housing community. There is a dire need for affordable housing, especially affordable rental housing in the town of Rochester. The county's recently issued housing action plan documents the severity of the current situation, proposes a range of steps that can help to remedy the situation, and encourages all the towns in the county to take action on this urgent issue. The HAP advocates for a balanced mix of low-income housing, workforce housing, and luxury housing, a combination which fosters, I'm sorry, I'm just letting somebody else into the meeting here. A combination which fosters an inclusive community where people can live and meaningfully contribute to the local economy, regardless of their socioeconomic status. The HAP provides data showing the benefit in jobs and economic spending that come from providing affordable housing. By including the Maybrook project in the EEO, the town board would have the power to ensure that the housing created would contain that balance of low-income, workforce, and luxury housing. Specific percentages can be mandated for each of these categories. Although the terms affordable, workforce, and luxury are often used loosely, there are clear accepted ways to define categories of affordability. Every year, New York State provides a statistic called the Area Median Income, AMI, for all counties. HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, identifies incomes below 30% of AMI as extremely low income, incomes below 50% of AMI as very low income, and incomes below 80% of AMI as low incomes. HUD gives priority in administering housing vouchers to extremely low incomes than to very low income. If you decide to move forward with EEO for this project and become the lead reviewer, I would encourage you to work with county experts to determine the best mix of affordable units with those that would be rented as fair market value. These requirements could then be presented to the developer as a term sheet as described in HAP. In addition, it should be noted that New York State has a middle income housing program that provides supplemental funding to developments that include a component of units that will be occupied by households earning up to 130% of AMI. This project has the potential not only to benefit the housing situation in the town, but also to serve as a model for other towns in the county. And again, that was from Andrew Mccarrick and the same letter from Claire Wassel. Okay. That is all the comments I have. At this point, I'll open it up to the board if, or Mary Lou, can I ask the board if they want to say anything or ask any questions? It's a public hearing.
It's a public hearing. It's not a meeting once again, but you do have somebody else who came on who.
That's Mr. Coyne who was with the applicant.
Okay, but if he wants to comment.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Mr. Coyne, I don't know if you want to say anything. Okay.
No.
With that, I would ask then for a motion to hold the public hearing open until we review these comments in seeker and determine next steps. So do I have that motion?
I'll make
And it'll be to be held open to a date to be determined, because we don't know how long it'll take to review everything. So.
Go ahead, Adam,
I was just gonna say, go ahead, but I'll make that motion to hold the hearing open.
and I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay, at a date to be determined later.
Mike, I have a question.
Yes,
When would we wait to do seeker till we get the reports back of water and sewer? What they're going to do in their plan for water and sewer, or does the seeker have to go in this particular instance prior?
well, what I would propose, and you know, we'll discuss this at when we discuss it at the next meeting, but I would propose that we have created an escrow account. I would propose that we employ our town's engineering firm to review the seeker, to report back to the board as to next steps. So that's what I would propose, but
Thank you.
Mike, I would recommend that actually, when you do continue the public hearing, I think it may be helpful to have CPL have a representative here.
absolutely, absolutely. This was step number one of the initial public hearing. The time has passed for the 30 days of lead agency, and we will act on that the next time we discuss this. But as Mary Liz pointed out, tonight was just a public hearing, not a working meeting. So
We're going to have to start scheduling meetings with public hearings.
yeah, which we can do.
Right,
We can
absolutely.
schedule it as a public hearing and workshop meeting.
And then you can discuss it.
And then we can do that for future. But I also don't think we have a lot of information really tonight anyway yet. We just got these comments. So Kate, if you would do a roll call vote on holding the public hearing open, please.
Councilwoman Anowen,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hagen Depew,
Aye.
Councilman Hewitt,
I froze. Aye.
Councilman Paddock,
Aye.
Supervisor Baden.
Aye. And for the board, I will speak with the applicant, but my plan is to invite them to our workshop meeting at a specific time. And we will discuss this at our workshop meeting at May 25th as our next steps. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn, and thank you all for attending.
I'll make that motion.
Have a
Second.
Second, okay. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank
Night,
you all.